pleasant morning to everyone, especially to our research advisors, Mrs. R.G. Domingo and Mrs. Cristal Valmadrid, and also to our research panels, Mrs. Nikki Macabontac and Ms. Germaine Mendoza. First, I would like to introduce myself. I am Princesa Syra S. Castro, and I will be presenting to you a research study entitled The PEPPA Effect in English Language Acquisition. But before that, I would like to introduce to you my group mates, Miss Ara Marie Sanchez, Miss Sara Angela Lacaba, Miss Mary Rose Caralde, and Miss Micah Sanchez. So to start our presentation, I will present now to you our Chapter 1, the Introduction. Peppa Pig is an illustration of a broadly famous TV arrangement among children and preschoolers everywhere in the world. So every one of the 10 independent scenes rotates around the regular day-to-day existence of a common family unit comprising 4 individuals. Peppa, the main character, her family, and her companions are creatures. Be that as it may, they talk and act like people. In addition, it is also a British energized program rooted to preschoolers, local speakers of English, which is broadcasted in 180 nations. In other studies, Test thinks about have verified these revelations by showing that the presence of TV reduces parent-youth correspondences, parent language, children's play practices, and thought. So, research gap. Currently, there is no research study like this here in the Philippines. So, the research main objective, this study aims to know if there's a so-called PEPPA effect in the Philippines, particularly in the Filipino preschoolers in Bulacan. Specifically, the study seeks to answer the following questions. So these are the research questions that are related to our main objectives. First question, is there a PEPPA effect among Filipino children? Next, how does the PEPPA effect influence Filipino children in terms of acquisition of the English accent? Third, how do parents perceive the influence of Peppa Pig among Filipino children? We assume that kids who watch the British animation Peppa Pig significantly affected and add to the securing of unknown dialect by just methods of watching it and through the method of emulating some lexical pieces or words that the characters explicitly Peppa articulates. The reaction of the kids will enormously add to distinguish and explore the examination questions besides, and search for the commitment of those animation programs, explicitly Peppa Pig, that could assist with illuminating the guardians and local area to encourage the jargon improvement and procurement of unknown dialect of the youngsters in general. So next, let's move on to the conceptual framework. So, PEPPA effect is our independent variables and English accent acquisition is our dependent variables. So, these variables are interrelated and influence each other. We're now moving to the Chapter 2, Methodology, which will be discussed by Miss Mary Rose Caralde.
A blessed day to everyone. I am Mary Rose I. Caralde. At this moment, I'm about to discuss the methodology of our research study. Under the methodology, I'm about to discuss the research design, sources and materials, data gathering techniques and sampling procedures, and the last, data analysis. First is the research design. The researchers make use of mixed method research, whereas it is a procedure for collecting, analyzing, and mixing both quantitative and qualitative research. Next in line, sources and materials. The sources that were used in this research were primary sources because the data that were gathered were from the experiences of the respondents. Specifically, the parents that had child with the exact age of 3 to 6 years old who watched Peppa Pig. The researchers used Google Form to distribute the questionnaire to the respondents. The materials that were used to gather information were the online questionnaires. Next are the data gathering techniques and sampling procedures. This study was mixed methods research wherein the researchers conducted an online survey questionnaire to gather and collect data. The researchers formulated acceptable and suitable questions associated with the PEPPA effect in the language development of the Filipino preschoolers. The population were selected from a total of 70 children in Bulacan. After identifying the population, The researchers distributed a preliminary survey via Google Form to the parents of preschoolers. The next step is figuring out who among the students is watching Peppa Pig on TV and other platforms. Based on the results of preliminary survey, the researchers identified 55 preschoolers who are fond of Peppa Pig, and it served as the respondents of this study. Next in line is data analysis. The researcher used a survey questionnaire in gathering the information from the respondents. The questionnaire was stated in English. The gathered data was organized in qualitative method and expressed in a relation with the quantifiable information that can be used for mathematical calculation and statistical analysis. This approach of exploration that progresses the precise incorporation or mixing of quantitative and qualitative data.
Good day everyone, I am going to present the chapter 3, which is the results and discussion. This chapter subtleties the interpretation, analysis, and presentation of the data gathered from the responses of the respondents about the PEPPA effect in their language development. So now let's start. PEPPA effect among Filipino children. The results in this study show that the PEPPA effect is evident among Filipino children. It says that the majority of the respondents, children with a percentage of 75% or with a total votes of 39, said yes, that the program influenced their child's English speaking skills. According to them, there were certain words that their children acquired in watching the program. They have said that the first gain words that their children have learned are daddy, mommy, maddy, paddle, and snort snort. Moreover, their children imitate words that Peppa Pig always says, like Mama I love you, Daddy Pig, Mommy Pig, hello, and I love you, Muddy Paddles. The others claim that there's no influence of the show when it comes to the English language of their children in voting no with a percentage of 23% or with the total votes of 12. Lastly, the respondents said maybe with a percentage of 2% or with the total votes of 1 that the show influenced their child's English speaking skills just because they think that not most all of the time their child uses English in communicating with them and that they just only enjoy the show since it was fun and interesting to watch. In terms of Peppa Pig's effect on their child's English speaking skills, 35 out of 52 respondents said yes, they believe Peppa Pig has influenced their child's English speaking skills. 15 out of 52 said maybe, and 2 out of 52 said they aren't sure whether their child has been influenced by Peppa Pig. So now let's proceed to the influence of the Peppa effect in the English accent acquisition of Filipino children. Our study showed that there's an influence of the Peppa effect among Filipino children. In our survey, 68% answered yes and 7.1% answered no. This means that the cartoon show Peppa Pig has a great influence when it comes to the English accent acquisition of a child. When it comes to imitating the accent and the words that the children have watched and heard from the show, 70% of the parents have answered yes and 30% answered no. This means that there were some of the Filipino children who were greatly influenced by the show that tends them to imitate everything they heard. For the influence of the cartoon show, 35 out of 52 respondents answered yes, 15 of 52 answered maybe, and 2 out of 52 answered no. Let's proceed to the parents' perception on the influence of Peppa Pig among Filipino children. Our study showed that most of the respondents say that they feel happy about their child's accent, while others feel unhappy and think that it's weird. This explains that some of the parents' children were not aware of the English accent that their child watches and they find it weird and unusual for them. Hearing them talking in another accent seemed to be different for them.
So now let's move forward to the chapter 4, which is the conclusion. The researchers conclude that Peppa effect is something which the Filipino children imitate and adapt through watching the cartoon program, which is Peppa Pig. In the Peppa effect, the imitate words in the show like muddy puddle, mommy, daddy, pancakes, and so on. So we better conclude that there is an effect of watching Peppa Pig among Filipino children in their language development. Based on the response provided by respondents, it can be stated that there is development in their language, and we've seen that watching Peppa Pig helps their children to acquire language, as it shows clearly in their first language, which is Filipino. We also conclude that Peppa Pig affects the Filipino children to be easily familiarized and acquire both English language and accent. Most of the children who watch Peppa Pig learn by imitating every single word pronounced by their favorite pig. It also helps them improve their communication skills because based on the results of our survey, parents notice that their children acquire a lot of new words and vocabulary from the said program that they use in their everyday conversation, and it creates a big impact to their learning. The study revealed that Peppa Pig helps the children in different ways, and the parents are proud that their child is improving in terms of language and also in terms of communication. It also contributes improvement and development to some preschoolers, and they continue learning the language through watching the said program. Watching Peppa Pig really affects the acquisition of the Filipino children, specifically in English accent. Every child who watched Peppa Pig applied immediately what they heard from the program, like the word daddy, mommy, and more English words. Therefore, the child already knew how to communicate to their parents using English accent. Also, they can also use the British language in expanding their knowledge about vocabularies and developing their linguistic competence concerning the pronunciations of the words that they have learned from the program that may help their global communicative competence in the future. Moreover, we also conclude that the dominance of the British language will be more evident in them instead of using their mother tongue. Too much exposure to the cartoon program may not only affect their language development but also their attitudes and behaviors while imitating what Peppa Pig talks and does if there's no strict guidance of the parents.
So, for the recommendation, what is safe to conclude is that Peppa Pig can be an effective EFL teaching tool for early language learning and in particular formulaic language acquisition. That is why all stakeholders, teachers, material and curriculum designers should include it in the teaching process. So, what would be interesting to examine in further research is whether the formulaic language acquired can be retained long term. So, given its effect, it is okay to understand the PEPPA effect among the Filipino children.
So that will be all. Thank you.